Hello, my name is Jin Young Choi. Today is Thursday, February 13th, 2025. It is 1 o'clock in the afternoon, Eastern Time. I'm conducting this interview virtually in my home in Rochester, New York. I'm here with Dr. Gale A, who is conducting this interview from her home in Claremont, California. This interview is conducted as a part of the oral history project of Pacific Asia and North American Asian women in theology and ministry as we celebrate our 40th year in 2025. Dr. Gale A. is one of our founding mothers and a prominent Asian American feminist biblical scholar. We would like to listen to her story of life and career as part of our living history. Dr. E, it is my pleasure to have a conversation with you. I'd like to begin with the questions regarding your biography. Tell me your name, where and when you were born, and a little bit about your childhood.
Oh, okay. Well, I'll get to the childhood later, but um, I was born in 1949 in Jewish Hospital in Cincinnati, Ohio. Now, I was only there for a year when my mother brought me to Chicago while my father went into the Navy. And I did my BA in English Literature in 1973 at Loyola University in Chicago. And also at Loyola, I received my MA in New Testament in 1975. And I went on for a doctorate in New Testament at the University of St. Michael's College in Toronto, Ontario, and that was in 1975. But I saw the light and graduated in Hebrew Bible, Old Testament in in 1985. And I spent 14 years, hold on. I spent 14 years teaching Old Testament at the University of St. Thomas and St. Michael's, University of St. Thomas in St. Paul, Minnesota. And then I spent 18 years as the director of studies of feminist liberation theologies and teaching Hebrew Bible at in Cambridge, Massachusetts. And then I retired to Pilgrim Place in Claremont, California, where you see me now.
I heard that where you studied and then where you taught. Um,
And you wanted me to go on a little bit about my childhood?
yeah, that would be very interesting.
Okay, I can do that.
Okay.
Okay, so like I said, I was born in Cincinnati, Ohio in 1949, and I spent the first 10 years of my life in the slums of Chicago. And I grew up with Blacks and Puerto Ricans. I grew up in an apartment building, which was filled with cockroaches and mice. And, one of the things my dad would do is take us out for a drive, come back, and we all take off our shoes. And then he'd turn on the lights and we'd kill the cockroaches. That was part of my childhood. Now, my boyhood playmate was a black kid in my apartment. His name was Maimon. I remember him very well. When I was 10, we moved to a white neighborhood, which quickly became black because of white flight and then redlining.
Oh.
Then, as the oldest of 12 children and the oldest daughter, I was stuck taking care of my brothers and sisters. And in our house that we moved, we only had one bathroom in a three-bedroom house. Okay, again, I'm the oldest of 12 children. All right, so the one bedroom we were in, I was with my two sisters until my father fixed up the two bedrooms upstairs, and my brother had one of them, and then my two sisters had the other bedroom. Okay, so we still only had one bathroom, okay? And I really wanted to get out of the house. So I therefore volunteered as a candy striper at 16. And I then I this was in a hospital, a little company of Mary hospital. And then I became a dietary aide at 17 and a nurse's aide at 18 at this little company of Mary hospital. Now, because of this hospital experience, I thought I wanted to become a medical doctor. All right. So at 18, I left home and went to Loyola University's pre-med program and never lived at home again.
Mm. Wow. So you lived in a very diverse community in your childhood and with 11 siblings. Then who was a formative influence in your life?
Oh, okay. The woman who grabbed me intellectually was my high school English teacher, Miss Cianci,
Mm.
who later became Mrs. McInerney. And she would sit on her desk and read poetry to us. And I was transfixed. She was probably, it was her influence that motivated me when I switched from pre-med to becoming an English major in college.
Mm. Okay. Then, so you intended to study in the pre-med, but how did you get into your field of work, the Old Testament Hebrew Bible studies? So what motivated you?
Okay, so I did my master's and 5 years of my doctorate in New Testament. However, I couldn't get excited about a thesis topic. And then Elizabeth Schuster Fiorenza was up for a job at my university. And I would have liked to have worked under her
Mm.
um, because she was being considered at St. Thomas or St. Michael's, but
Mhm.
she didn't get a job.
Mm.
And then because, being a US citizen, I couldn't um, apply for scholarships. I had to look for other jobs to support myself. And I became involved in a research project by the Canada Council. It was called the Parables Project. Um, what I can't remember the guy who was the head honcho, but he had hired grad students who were in Greek and Roman literature and hired me for the Jewish literature. So I read the Hebrew Bible for the very first time, the Apocrypha, Pseudepigrapha, the rabbinic literature, the Midrashim, the Jerusalem and Babylonian Talmuds, and became excited about the legends of the Jews and the Hebrew Bible. So it was because of this experience on the Parables Project, looking for um, analogs to the parables of Jesus. It was because of this parables project that I switched from my major from New Testament to Old Testament and Hebrew Bible.
Oh, it's good to know. Then, so it seems that you you taught at a Catholic institution. Just could you tell me about your religious affiliations or commitments or backgrounds?
Oh, okay. Um, well, I was raised Roman Catholic, and that actually was a very big part of, and why I interpret the biblical text in a different way. But anyway, because as Roman Catholics, we really did not read the Bible.
Mm.
But I was a Roman Catholic and was still a Roman Catholic when I started to work at Episcopal Divinity School.
Mm.
I worked there as a Roman Catholic for 4 years. But then, because I lived in Boston and because I knew since 1985 um, of the sex abuse scandal of priests,
Mhm.
abusing young boys. I could not, and also because being in Boston and Cardinal Law, who was in Boston, I felt that I could not be in that religious denomination anymore. And because I was working at Episcopal Divinity School, where, my first Eucharist was of a woman who was Black and who was married, all these things, you couldn't have in Roman Catholicism. I became an Episcopalian, and I would still consider myself Episcopalian, but I am very, I still deeply appreciate the incarnational theology of Roman Catholicism.
You mentioned the incident in the Catholic Church regarding priest abuse of a child, and then it was in the 80s, and you claimed to be a feminist in the late 80s, even though you had been a woman all the time. But what happened so that you had uh, the consciousness um, as a feminist, your consciousness as a feminist biblical scholars?
Oh, okay. Well, all right. Um,
Maybe you can describe the trajectory of your work. That's where you started. We heard about where you started, and New Testament studies and the Old Testament studies. Then when feminist
okay.
consciousness emerged.
Okay. All right. Well, as I I became an English major, and um, I became an English major. I couldn't be a medical doctor, all right? And being an English major was very influential in pulling out my talents as an interpreter of text. So it was very natural for me to become an interpreter of the Bible when I went on to my master's and doctoral work. Okay. Now, unlike other biblical scholars who focused on a particular corpus of books for their career, like prophets or wisdom or, you know, um, uh, Torah, I was much more interested in the different methods of biblical interpretation, like the historical criticism, form criticism, redaction criticism. And those were the methods that I was trained in graduate school. However, I naturally gravitated toward literary criticism of the Bible because I was an English major in college. And going into that, I learned that there were many different forms of interpretation as an English major, and that influenced my the different forms of biblical interpretation that I became interested in. So, I mean, the feminist criticism, post-colonial criticism. I mean, you see these criticism in literature, in literary studies, but also I applied them in biblical studies. So, feminist criticism, post-colonial criticism, sociological criticism, Marxist criticism, structuralism, post-structuralism, ecological criticism, Asian American and African American interpretation, etc. So I became adept at interpreting the Bible from these various forms of interpretation, right? Um, Learning these various methods, I became convinced that there was not one way of looking at the Bible, but many different ways depending upon the questions you posed. For example, if one wanted to know if the conquest of Canaan was historically true, one could look at historical criticism, but you can also look at post-colonial criticism and ideological criticism. Now, when did I become what were the turning points that helped evolve in my scholarship? Well, there were many turning points, several turning points. In the 1980s, it was the turn toward feminist criticism. I got involved in the SBL in the Women in the Biblical World section. I was the co-chair for several years of that section. Now, in the 1990s, there was both a turn toward the sociological and ideological criticism, where I got involved in a lot of Norman K. Gottwald's work and became interested in what is known as ideological criticism. Okay. And then in the 1990s to the 2000s, the late 1990s and 2000s, it was minoritized or racial ethnic analysis. And that was especially due to my immersion in the anti-racist culture of Episcopal Divinity School. So those are the major turning points in my scholarship.
Mhm. Oh, so because of your English literature background, you had to have had already some theoretical background for literary studies, not only formalist literary criticism, but you brought those theological insights into biblical studies.
Hmm.
I think that it was quite late that the SBL Society of Biblical Literature just began to be interested in feminist criticism and ideological criticism in 1990s in comparison
Well,
to, yeah. Could you explain?
that was when the what do you call it? The Committee on Women in the Profession was
Mhm,
started in the 1990s. And
mhm,
that was also when the Racial Ethnic Minorities Committee on the Current started in the 1990s.
mhm,
Now, feminist scholarship began in the 1970s with
70s.
Phyllis Tribble, the
Mhm,
late 1970s, early 80s with Phyllis Tribble.
mhm.
So it was happening, but
Okay.
SBL didn't get on the ball until the
Mm,
1990s to have
mhm,
either the Committee on Women or Quorum
mhm.
uh, as a as a committee.
Okay, that's helpful because yeah, as we know, uh, after the 60s, um, the biblical studies also were influenced by those movements, and then feminist scholars emerged in 1970s. But at the institutional level, the SBL just began to form some groups of scholars, feminist scholars, women scholars, and then minoritized scholars. Um, then, what uh, roles did you play in forming those organizations, those groups within the SBL? Did you play the leadership roles there?
Well, yes, as I said, I was chair of Women in the Bible section for years. That started in the 80s. And then when I came on to the Quorum Quorum committee, Committee on Underrepresented Racial Ethnic Minorities, I was there. I mean, I was there as the feminist. I was the only woman. I was
Mhm,
there as the feminist. And because there was another Asian there, so I wasn't really there as an Asian, but that Asian, and I can't remember his name right now, has left the field. But then you
mhm,
had um, Vincent Rinbush Randall Bailey, and then Fernando Segovia.
Mhm.
So I was there primarily as the feminist, but
Mhm.
then became interested in the Asian aspect um,
Mhm.
primarily because of my involvement. Kwok Pui Lan in 1994 asked me to be on some AAR
Mhm.
um, some AAR session on uh, the politics of identity
Mhm.
as a racial ethnic minority. So it was me, Kwok Pui Lan, um, I think it was Jung Ha
Yeah.
and a mujerista. She was a very famous mover whose name I can't remember anymore. But you know, um, that's where uh, I started having look into what it means to be a racial ethnic minority as a biblical scholar. I was very upfront saying that, I haven't haven't done any studies of the Bible as a racial ethnic minority, and I look forward to doing it. In 1998, when I I was at my first PANAAWTM meeting, it was um, it was in 1998 in Toronto, and Kwok Pui Lan uh, put out this Mimeo sheet wanting to know if any graduate student wanted to become a director of studies in feminist liberation theologies. And I said, I will do it because I really wanted to get out of St. Thomas. And so even though I had a full professorship and was tenured, so I applied for that and became Director of Studies in Feminist Liberation Theologies. And it was their anti-racist, anti-oppression ethos that got me really more involved in um, reading the Bible as an Asian American. Okay. So that's, one of the main turning points in my own scholarship.
I'm curious about a couple of things while listening to your stories about turning points. And at the AR meeting to which Dr. Kwok Pui Lan invited you, did you meet any uh, Asian American biblical scholars there? I I think I remember you met Mary Foskett there
Mary
as a
Foskett came
student.
up to me because I had mentioned, you
Mhm.
know, talking about what Asian American is, depends on what geography you're in. I mean, I was in Minnesota where I had students, who were adoptees. And I think, Asian students who are adoptees from Korea. And I think that the notion of being, that mentioning even an adoptee hit Mary, hit Mary so much that she came up and says, "I'm so glad you talked about being an adoptee as a, because I'm an Asian American adoptee." So I was met her. I kind of met Rita.
Mhm.
Yeah, I only met, she came up to me and says, "Gale, we got to talk," because we were both in Minnesota at the time. All right.
Mhm.
And she was at Hamlin, and I lived right around the corner from Hamlin. And it was there that she got me involved in a Hamlin um, um, uh, project called 50 Years of Asian America. So she invited all these Asian Americans, to come and talk about 50 years of Asian America. And I mean, it was through that I met Rita.
Mhm.
Now I can't remember. Well, I met Jung Ha, and of course I met, different people that I met at that PANAAWTM meeting that I went to later in 1998. The
Mhm.
1994, so it was about 4 years later that I entered had that PANAAWTM meeting in 98.
Okay, so both years, 1994 and 1998, are important, and we will have a further conversation about your involvement in PANAAWTM later. But I wonder, as I hear your story, what did you feel at the SBL while you found many women, Asian American women at the AAR, but still you were alone, even in the QRAMP committee, and you were only Asian woman in the women's groups. So that what did you feel at the SBL? And then you find other Asian American women at the AAR. So what did you feel about that?
Well, I did get involved. It was also in the 1990s that I got involved with ethnic Chinese biblical colloquium, right?
Oh,
Even there, I was still one of the only females, okay, until Mary Foskett came in, okay? And then Liz Nan came in. These are ethnic Chinese biblical scholars. Now there's a lot more, Jan Jan and, so but, I kept involved as an Asian American through, things like ECBC and PANAAWTM.
so you mentioned the Asian American scholars group, ethnic Chinese scholars group, and you met those scholars at the SBL as well, not only at the AAR meeting and at the PANAAWTM conferences. Then why did you, what made you decide to leave the school where you got your tenure full professor position, then moved to the Episcopal Divinity School?
All right, so I was looking for a challenge.
Mhm,
It was a very white institution,
mhm,
and I was getting really more involved in, Asian American studies and ethnic Chinese biblical colloquium, and I was in Quirem, and I had just been with Pui Lan in Toronto, and when she handed out this advertisement, and I thought this would be something, at least, either take a 2-year leave or maybe just apply for this position.
mhm.
I was attracted to the fact that it was in Cambridge, Massachusetts, which was um, on the East Coast, and a great city, Boston, and I just wanted a change. And the being director of studies in feminist liberation theologies was an attraction because there wasn't much of that. I mean, I was director of women's studies at of the 5 colleges in Minnesota, but it wasn't as challenging as being director of studies in feminist liberation theologies. So
Mhm.
that's one of the reasons why I left. I mean, it was primarily a leave of absence, but then I applied for the position and I got the position, and I got it as a tenured full professor at Episcopal Divinity School.
As soon as you arrived there, or
So
after
after two
1 year,
years,
2 years?
I was in that was it was a 2-year position
Oh.
that was going to be permanent.
Mm,
Um, it was going to be open to other people, and other people applied, but I was the one that got the position
no.
because I was already there and I did a great job for 2 years.
And then people loved you there.
Of course.
Okay. Then going back to the academic institution SPL, or biblical studies broadly. So what changes have you observed in biblical studies since you started your vocation as a biblical scholar, but things have been changing so rapidly. So, what changes you noticed in biblical studies?
Well, I'm very happy that many more racial ethnic minorities are now biblical scholars. And I love seeing this at the racial ethnic lunches, at the Karimp meetings, in the annual meeting. However, I do not see our work making a dent in biblical scholarship as a whole. I mean, I have a subscription to Old Testament abstract that I read assiduously. I read the reviews of Review of Biblical Literature when I see a topic that interests me. I read the book list of in the European journals, but it's really the same old, same old. There was nothing exciting. And I've been finding that at the SBL. I mean, I've been going to these meetings the last couple of years, and the exciting things are those that are happening in the racial ethnic meetings. I also like the work that's being done in poverty and economics at SBL. But, the work of racial ethnic minorities is really not making a dent in biblical studies, the white biblical studies. So at least I'm not seeing it.
Mhm. But how do you envision the field evolving? So you anticipate that the trend, still white dominant scholarship, will continue, or
Yes, I mean, unless something really exciting happens.
Mhm. Right? Yeah, in terms of the number of minoritized scholars have grown, but
The work isn't coming into white scholarship.
right.
That's what, I mean, all right, I did my presidential address on intersectionality, where
Mhm.
you come deal with gender, race, and class as intersections.
Mhm.
But you don't see titles like that in
Mhm.
the articles that I've been seeing. I mean, it just seems to be the same old, same old.
That's true, sadly. Then you mentioned your presidential address. So you were elected as the first Asian American and the first woman of color president of the SPL in 2019. Then even after your presidency, you don't see significant changes in the guild. Then, but how did you feel when you were elected as the first Asian American uh, woman of color president?
Oh, okay. Well, at first there was a strong feeling of the imposter syndrome, carrying the weight of being the first Asian American and first woman of color president of a significant association of which I was the 70s. I felt uh, they were not right, and um, they were not right in picking me. I mean, looking at events nowadays with Trump, there was a part of me that thought I was a DEI president, that I was chosen as a diversity, equity, and inclusion candidate. I mean, this, of course, is part of a big part of my internalized oppression that responded to the racism that I've encountered in the white academy and white culture and wider society. And maybe being an Asian American woman of color was a factor in being nominated as an SBL president, along with my scholarship. But I also believe in my scholarship. I think that my biblical scholarship deeply exemplifies the critical range and depth that other presidents have achieved in SBL's history. And so I make no apologies now for my scholarship and service to SBL. I mean, I'm very proud of what I accomplished, even though, like I said, there was a part of me that, oh, why did they pick me? I know the greatest significance of my role as the first Asian American and first woman of color is as a mentor and role model for all Asian Americans and women of color in the future to become biblical scholars. I mean, I feel that's where my significance lie. It was to be a mentor and be strong and consequential for biblical scholars, for their own students, model for Asian American biblical scholars now to be strong and consequential for their own students. So that's why I take this mentorship and modeling for students and for very young scholars. I take it very seriously. So I therefore try to be visibly at the luncheons, current lunches. I very try to support any young scholars that I come in contact with. I try to respond to their questions as wisely as I can.
You mentioned that you avoid to
Well,
something
I have
mentioned.
people, these scholars, these scholars, particularly male scholars, Asian male scholars, come up and want me to read their papers.
Uh-huh.
Sorry, I got too much to do. You know, they want to send me their papers. I did it a couple times, but that was a lot of work.
No, you are not
So I
sure
mean, I
about
just
that.
it's just no, I think I won't do that anymore.
Yeah, you're right. But I'm struck by your saying about your experience as the SBL president. Many people would just be surprised to hear that you had the imposter syndrome. But what was clear was that your scholarship actually covers everything. If someone sees the list of your publications, especially the methods and approaches that you have employed, from historical critical literary narrative criticism and social scientific criticism, ideological criticism, post-colonial and materialist criticism. So what kind of candidate could be elected as the president?
Who knows? Yeah, no, I mean, like I say, I don't know how, uh, but it was in San Diego. I was supposed to give a talk at the Current luncheon. I
Mhm.
gave the talk, but I have no idea what I said. But I think I would have said something about this imposter syndrome.
Right.
Did
I
I
remember. Yeah.
did I do that at that Current lunch? See, I
Right.
ended up in the hospital. Um, uh, Evidently, I had this what is called transient global amnesia, and
Mhm.
so I went to, I knew I was at the women's breakfast when Elaine Go, I think, got her or somebody. Uh, and then I went to the womenist section, all right.
Mhm.
Um, and then I walked over to the Coram luncheon. Now, I do not remember being at the Coram luncheon. I knew I was supposed to give a talk there,
You
but I do
did.
not remember. And that was what I thought I was going to be talking about,
Yeah.
the imposter syndrome.
Mhm. Mhm.
Did I
Mhm.
do that?
Yes, you did.
Oh,
You
I
did
did
it.
do that.
Yeah,
Okay.
you did it.
Well, I thought that was, I'm glad I did because I really did feel
Yeah.
that, you know, uh, you know, that was I wanted people to know that,
Right.
you
Yes.
know,
We were surprised, but also were very encouraged. Sorry about this, but because the scholar who had studied in the wide range of employing wide range of approaches and published a lot of work, and then you had that kind of feeling that that actually helped us understand challenges as well as possibilities as emerging scholars. Then the other fact that is important in our conversation is that you are a third generation of Asian American, right? American. So
Yep.
what about your language? But because of your appearance, just you were celebrated as the the first Asian American and the first woman of color president of the SPL. So can you speak a little bit about your identity as a third generation Asian American? I know it's a bit out of context, but you deserved the award election as
I
the
mean, being a third generation Asian American,
yeah.
it's one that has, I mean, I grew up with the racism in this society. I
Mm.
mean, I did not come as a immigrant, you know, uh, I grew up and learned that there was, I grew up knowing that this was a very racist society.
Mhm.
So, and I did not grow up, you know, having, you know, in the immigrants' experience of another society. This was always my society, the U.S. American society. All right. So I guess I'm not sure
Yeah.
what difference. Well, I mean, it's a big difference that I was third generation.
Mhm.
Um, but I mean,
Because
I
mm,
mean, if they I don't know. I'm not sure what you're trying to get out of me being third gen.
yeah, because I don't know if you remember, but when you were introduced as the first uh, Asian American, first woman of color president of the SPL, and I heard that I might be I might be wrong, but the person who introduced you mentioned your English. Your English is because you're the third generation Asian American president, but your English is perfect.
Well, I didn't know. That would have been Adele Reinhardt's, I think. Yeah, it would have been Adele Reinhardt's. Uh,
Yeah,
I don't remember her. I'll go take a look at what she said, but I don't think she said, you know, I'm so I
I may
speak.
be wrong, but just
Yeah, I don't. I,
that's
I don't
strong.
think somebody would. I don't think anybody mentioned, you
Yeah.
know, I was articulate in English. You know, I don't remember
Right.
anything like that
Okay.
as a qualification.
Yeah. So even at the high point of your achievement and still um, you see continuing positive changes in the guild, but you are committed to raising later generations of biblical scholars that I know as I serve as on the mentoring committee of PANAAWTM. So you have been doing you have been mentoring Asian American women and non-binary people through the PANAAWTM, but also you received mentor awards twice at the SPL. So can you speak about the awards and how you felt when you received each of the awards? One is from the status of women in the profession Committee, and the other is Underrepresented Racial and Ethnic Minorities in the Profession Committee.
The status of women in the profession mentoring award,
Mhm.
mostly because I hardly ever go to the women's breakfast. So I said, why are they giving me this reward? All right. But what was great, I mean, what was very wonderful actually was finding out who nominated me. So, I mean, I said, so it was you, Will Gaffney, you, Sing A, and you, Will Gaffney, Sing.
Garrett's Garrett
Uh,
Evangelical Seminary
uh,
hired.
oh, okay. Who got? Oh, yes, Anderson.
Carol. Yes.
Cheryl Anderson.
Mhm.
I says, I think there were five of you there, and
Oh,
I was just so, it was just so wonderful. I didn't realize I had this big effect. All right, let's say with Will Gaffney, she was having such problems with Carol Myers, its dissertation, and I had my problems with Carol Myers as well. She really humiliated me at an SBL. So Will would call me up several times at EDS, and we talk about it, what's going on. So I mean, so I didn't know I didn't know it really affected her, frankly, But Cheryl, I knew because she asked me to be her mentor, Cheryl Anderson, and I was happy to do that.
Mhm.
And I don't maybe with you, it was from PANAAWTM, and maybe it was Sing A too. I just didn't realize that I was a mentor to you and Sing A, and
There was one more person, but I don't
was
remember.
it? I
Yeah.
can't remember who it
Yeah.
was. All
Yeah.
right, but anyway, I was very thrilled and just humbled to be nominated by you five. So I didn't know at the time I mean, only one I knew I was a mentor to was Cheryl Anderson, right? Because
Mhm.
she asked me to be her mentor. But, it was just Jeanette Oak. I think maybe it was Jeanette Oak.
No, not at the
Jeanette
time.
Oak. Well, anyway, because I was a mentor for her too, But you know, I didn't realize that I was being a mentor to Will, so it was just so that was a eye-opening experience for me that, you know, what I do, when I talk to people and try to encourage them, I'm mentoring them.
Mhm.
So the underrepresented racial ethnic minorities, I think, I don't know who nominated me for that, but for me, I think, I knew you know, I was a mentor. Whereas before, with the status of women in the profession, I didn't know I was a mentor, but at least with the racial ethnic minorities award, I knew I was a mentor. So
Mhm.
I'm not sure if that helps, but um, the,
That's helpful. Yeah, that's good to know about your relationship with Will Gaffney. And I think it's very important for minoritized scholars. People may think that we only Asian scholars, Asian American scholars mentor only Asian
right.
American scholars, but interracial and then, yeah. So,
Well, that was part of, I mean, I knew, because I was with a Wabash program where it was the me, Fernando, Randall. Well, you had Asian American scholars, you had Hispanic scholars, and you had African Americans, and we had, we had a dialogue with each other. So, I mean, for me, we've been dialogue, at least I was more of a dialogue more with, African American than Asian American. So it's it's an intersectional
and
experience.
crucial. Yeah, yeah. That's wonderful. Good to know. And after teaching at EDS, you retired and moved to California. So how do you engage? I know you are active in the community. Then because your present life is a very important part of our your story. So could you share your experience with the community in the community so far?
I mean, I don't feel like I'm retired. I am still professionally involved, writing, teaching, speaking. In March, right before PANAAWTM, I'll be doing 3 lectures at Fresno Pacific, on yeah, Asian American poverty in Asian America, Asian American biblical studies, and poverty in ancient Israel and nowadays. So I'm still very professionally involved. I'm also very involved in my retirement community. I'm on their communications committee. I'm on their library committee. I'm on their resident safety council. And I'm also a member of the Claremont CERT, which is the Community Emergency Response Team. And actually, I was called out during the fires. I did CERT work at the LA Fire Recovery Center.
Mhm.
And so I met all these people who've lost their homes. What can I say? So I keep very busy.
Oh, that's very impressive. You continue to teach and then involved. You are involved in professional communities and your communities there. So, what is your hope living in the community? Just in the near future, what do you expect as you continue your communal life beautifully there?
Well, I hope to, dump some of these committees and we have a wonderful art center. I'd like to learn some, watercoloring, and I like to learn some stained glass, and I like to learn some, pottery. So, there's a lot of other things I'd like to do. Besides all those other committees, I'm also chair of um, our costume jewelry. So I make costume jewelry and we sell them at our big annual festival in November. So yeah, I'll still keep busy.
Yeah, and then you keep doing so meaningful work there. Is there anything you'd like to add um, to your stories of your life and scholarship?
I think I've covered most of it.
Okay. And we have another session in which I hope to hear about your involvement in
And
Asian,
yes.
uh,
Okay, I can do that.
yeah.
I remember yeah, I've been involved since 1988, 1998. I'm not sure if I remember everything that happened, but we'll see.
Yeah, then we will focus on PANAAWTM and your involvement in PANAAWTM's work and some interesting stories that we later generations of sisters, siblings don't know. So I'm eager to hear about those stories as well. And thank you so much for sharing your stories about your life and scholarship today. So this concludes our first interview on February 13th, 2025 with Dr. Gale A. Thank you for participating in this project. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Jin Young.
Thank you.
See ya.
I'm Jin Young Choi. Today is Friday, February 21st, 2025. It is 1 o'clock in the afternoon Eastern Time. I'm in Rochester, New York, and conducting a virtual interview with Dr. Gale A. in Claremont, California. This is our second interview conducted as a part of the Oral History Project of Pacific Asian and North American Asian women in theology and ministry. Dr. Gale A. has memories of the early days of PANAAWTM. We would like to hear about those memories and her thoughts on our 40-year-old community. Dr. E., it is good to be with you today. I
Thank you.
know, yeah, you are one of a few early members who are still serving as a mentor for younger generations of female and non-binary students and scholars of Asian descent. When did you first encounter PANAAWTM? Can you share your first memories of PANAAWTM?
Sure. Well, I met Kwok Pui Lan in 1994 at an AAR session and I can't remember what, it could have been Chicago, 94 in Chicago.
Mhm.
And the session had a lengthy title, The Impact of Natural Histories on the Politics of Identity. So Pui Lan asked me to go and do this, all right? Now, this was my very first session at AAR ever. I mean, I'm usually at SBL, and I was privileged to go and do this. And the thing was, was actually my very first immersion into, my Asian Americanness. I mean, I haven't thought about it before, but this was the very first, and uh, to reflect on this. So it was a highly autobiographical piece that I did. Now, it was at this AAR meeting that I met my PANAAWTM sisters, Mary Foskett. She came up to me right at the end because I talked something about, Asians being adoptees, and when I lived in Minnesota, there were a lot of Korean adoptees coming in to Minnesota. I met Jung Ha Kim and met Rita Nakashima Brock, and Rita at the time then um, had me work on 50 years of Asian America. She had an endowed chair, I think, at Hamlin University. So I worked with her then, again, getting more involved in Asian America, which I really didn't know. Um, Pui Lan then invited me to my first PANAAWTM meeting in Toronto in 1998, so about 4 years later. And I gave a paper there called Refiguring the Missionary Position, or We Asian American Women Will Take This Lying Down. Okay. And we all went out for dim sum. And this is when Pui Lan passed out this mimeographed ad. Remember mimeographs, that purple stuff. And it was
Mhm.
for a 2-year position as Director of Studies in Feminist Liberation Theologies, or FLT, at Episcopal Divinity School. And Pui Lan thought that one of our students might be interested in this position. And the thing was, I was definitely interested in doing it, even
Mhm.
though I was already a tenured full professor at the University of St. Thomas, and I already had a house. All right.
Mhm.
I took a 2-year leave. I sold the house, and moved to Cambridge. And I hit the ground running in developing lots of events for FLT. And because of that, I was hired. Um, I was hired for a 2-year position, but then I applied for the permanent position, and I got it with tenure, and my rank is full professor. So that's basically how I found out about PANAAWTM.
That's a wonderful story. Then that was the earliest time for PANAAWTM. So how do you describe your role in PANAAWTM's formation and development. So you met those colleagues and students, and then how did you make a community with women? There were no male Asian males around you?
Well, I didn't need, no, I did, I was involved with ECBC, which is in the 1990s, and I was, which had men in it. I was the only woman actually.
Mhm.
And I was involved with Current, and I was the only woman there. But with just women, with PANAAWTM was the one where I was involved only with women. Now,
Mhm.
when I came to EDS in 1988 as a faculty member, that was also when I started getting involved with PANAAWTM. And just like I did at EDS, I hit the ground running. I organized the March 1999 meeting at Stony Point, New York,
Mhm.
and that's where I also chaired the doctoral seminar. I was part of the June 1999 meeting that was held at we got a Wabash grant, and we held that Wabash grant at EDS, Episcopal Divinity School,
Mhm.
and about 7 PANAAWTM faculty came to EDS to develop teaching materials for teaching Asian North American women in theology in North America. Okay, then in 2000, I organized the 2000 doctoral seminar for PANAAWTM at Mount Alverno Conference Center in California. And then I was the local organizer for the 2002 and 2010 meeting at Auburndale, Massachusetts. So that's where, I mean, EDS was really a big organizer of the Massachusetts one, 2002, 2010. And then in 2018 at Chapman University in Orange, California, I was already retired. I moved to California. I organized that 2018 Chapman University PANAAWTM in Orange, California. Now, I can't even remember how long I was on the board of PANAAWTM, all right? And I don't remember what presentations I gave. I mean, I gave several sessions, all right, and I was a faculty advisor for a long time since 1998. So you can say I was very heavily involved in the development of PANAAWTM.
Okay, yeah. I didn't know about that. The EDS was like a center for
Yeah.
PANAAWTMs.
Yep, it was.
It
It
hosted
was.
events. Wow, and also I'm surprised by that the beginning of doctoral seminar you started 2000. It's
Yep.
25 years old.
Well, I mean, it was already going on before that. It was already going on when this started with uh who was that the white women, Letty Russell. I
Mhm.
mean, it's been going on for a while, a doctoral mentoring, I'm pretty sure. But
Mhm.
that's when I started,
You started,
yeah.
yeah. Okay, so you have been very active as a faculty advisor and then conference organizers and holding many events. Can you say a bit more about 1999 March? You mentioned the,
About what?
uh,
Well, we had a meeting at Stony Point, and then
yes.
we had a meeting at in June at Episcopal Divinity School. It was a Wabash grant.
Mm-hmm.
There were 7 faculty members there. I can't remember who it was, but they have the document actually
Mm-hmm.
on the PANAAWTM website. So it'll tell you. I haven't looked at it for a
Okay,
while, but
okay,
that document that we did, is already on the website.
okay. We will look for that document regarding 7 faculty members. Um, yeah, I think it's very important for you to raise later generations of scholars. And can you tell me what kind of work was most meaningful for you? You have done a lot of work. Maybe they may be intersecting, but what was the most meaningful for you?
Okay, well, the most collaborative
Mm-hmm.
experience that I had was when I was the local organizer for PANAAWTM meetings, and like the ones at EDS, I was the local person, the one that was at Stony Point, the one that was in California. So those were very collaborative for me. Now, the one that I most clearly remember was the one in 2018 when it was for Chapman University. And I
Mm-hmm.
had the very best team. All right. I had Grace Cowell, Rita Nakashima Brock, Jane Iwamura, Jeanette Oak, and Kirsten O were raising money for us at Azusa. So we would meet at Claremont School of Theology because Grace was there.
Mm-hmm.
And particularly with Jane Iwamura, I mean, I did all this stuff on Word and all these emails on Word and just very uh 20th century stuff. And what Jane Iwamura did was bring us into the 21st century because she was organizing conferences with Apari. All right.
Mm-hmm.
Now, she reorganized our emails. She reorganized our accounting system. And that 2018 um, conference was held at Chapman University, which had the most beautiful chapel there. All right. And we were in collaboration with the Associate Director of Church Relations, Sisa Payuyo. She was
Mm-hmm.
very good in helping us out.
Mm-hmm.
Only problem with that conference was that we didn't have any we had to be house students at a hotel, so we had to go to the hotel and shuttle them in, but otherwise it's a wonderful conference. And I think because it was held in California with
Mm-hmm.
its very large Asian population, we were able to draw many of the local Asian students and ministers to attend.
Mm-hmm.
Now, another awesome collaboration, I already mentioned it before, was when we gathered at EDS in 1999 for that Wabash grad. Okay, it was not only the interchange that was meaningful and inspiring, but we really ate well at the local restaurants. I mean, Sing A Yang, we went to Legal Seafood, and she ordered the largest lobster there, and she ate the whole thing. So it was very good.
Yeah, eating is very, sharing meals is very important for us, especially Asian food. But I'm impressed by the story, seafood in that place. So you, as I remember correctly, the conference at Chapman, then it was 2018. In that year, you moved to California, right? So moving to that place and then organizing the conference, how did you manage all of these things? And then you found the community there through that event?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I had a great team, and it was just, um, they knew what they were doing. I organized them, and uh, uh, what can I say? It was just a great
Yeah,
experience.
yeah. That's why you highlight it was a collaborative
Yes, it
experience
was.
that you remember most vividly. And we are speaking about PANAAWTM, but also you mentioned Pari. Can you tell us a bit about that organization and how much you have been involved, whether you have been involved in that organization? What's the relationship between PANAAWTM and Pari? That would be helpful for us too.
Well, it was all right. I don't even know the I can't even remember what the APARI stands for, but
Mhm,
you know, I- I've been to a couple of their meetings primarily. It's more religious studies,
mhm,
and it deals with religions that are not Christian. So be Buddhism, Hinduism, non-Christian religions. And I just go just for the networking and meeting wonderful people. So I just and it was local. It was held at Claremont School of Theology.
mhm,
So, I mean, and I had nothing to offer them in Bible, frankly. So I just came to learn. I mean, there was a Chinese Muslim there, So, I mean, it's just meeting all these Asians
mhm,
who weren't Christian and were very much involved. So that was basically, my relationship with Apari. I mean, I haven't been to I went to their reception in November in San
mhm.
Diego,
Ah,
but otherwise, I wasn't really involved.
mhm. Yeah. APARI stands for the Asian Pacific American Religions Research Initiative.
Institute, yeah.
Then it's more a, a community of scholarly gatherings, right? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Then let's talk about your leadership role. I know you shared your memories of collaborative works and conference organizing. Then what are some challenges you experienced as you played the leadership role in PANAAWTM? And what have been opportunities or insights you gained through your experience in that capacity?
I thought about this question. I really don't remember any major challenges. There were minor challenges, like when the local student I was working with at PSR didn't know any English, and I lived in Boston, and he didn't know any English, so I wasn't sure if things were getting done or not done well. Um, so, I mean, usually things worked out at these meetings, okay?
Mhm.
And the key learnings for me was being involved in a wonderful professional organization. I didn't see any I mean, if I had challenges and I couldn't stand it, I would have quit. I just had no, I just didn't want to bother,
Mhm.
if I
Mm.
didn't like it there. So
Yeah.
yeah, so I would have quit, but I stayed with it.
Mhm. So you loved your involvement in any events and occasions.
Yes.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, with the PANAAWTM. Then you mentioned some of the students um, who approached you at schools, institutions. Then um, when you you felt some um, issues with their ability to communicate in English, then you think that they expected you to um, be more helpful because you were an Asian faculty member? Then did you
Yeah.
find,
All
yeah.
right. If that's a challenge, that was a challenge.
Mhm.
Um, uh, you know, um, I didn't know their language and they didn't know English. All
Wow.
right. And so that was a challenge.
Mhm.
You know, um, I do remember, I think I already mentioned it to you. I
Mhm,
got some people to mentor that
mhm,
would never have gotten into a PhD program. All right.
mhm,
And
mhm,
I would have, you know, I wouldn't be able to help them. I mean, I tried to tell them maybe you want to do another master's program, to get your English up or things like that. But I mean, that was a challenge, and I couldn't help them there.
mhm, mhm. Yeah, but in the space of PANAAWTM, you helped a lot of students, especially international students, right? Um,
Well, I hope I did. I'm not sure, but
you did. And we have talked about your memories of the past of PANAAWTM, and now I would like to move on to your perception of the future or futures of PANAAWTM. So how do you see PANAAWTM changing in later generations or generations that came after you?
um, now that I'm no longer on Penn Autumn board and have officially retired, not only from Penn Autumn but also from EDS, I can just simply appreciate that Penn Autumn is in good hands. All right. I mean, I like the fact that there are new people working in Penn Autumn.
Mhm,
I like that we hired an office manager who gets paid, and there's also a grant writer now, Christine Hong. I like reading about the monthly new students featured. I find them very exciting. I like uh, the wonderful webinars that they've been putting on. Um, and I like the timeliness of the topics that are being held. I can't go to all of them, but I'm going to be going, I think is the one on AI with Pan Autumn,
mhm,
um, artificial intelligence with Pui Lan. Well, anyway,
mhm,
Pan Autumn has uh, offered, very exciting webinars.
mhm,
And I appreciate the continued work of mentorship
mhm,
by Pan Autumn. And uh, I also found very uplifting that the young students that we mentored
mhm,
years ago have taken on leadership in Pan Autumn, such as, Christine Pei,
mhm,
Young Lee, Hannah Ka, Nami Kim, and Joe, and you yourself, Jin Young.
mhm.
So um, I think Pan Autumn is in good hands.
Hmm. Yeah, I'm one of your mentors. Just I remember that I was there um, at a meeting in the conference during the conference at the end of the conference that when I was a doctoral student and you shared some wisdom regarding application for jobs and
Oh, yeah.
I still remember, yeah, we were students at the time. So you spoke some things regarding webinars, mentorship, students who take leadership now, then webinars and the knowledge Panorama has produced. So do you think it's distinct or it is a contribution to broader scholarship in theology and biblical studies? How do you see the work that we do regarding production of knowledge? And
Well, the fact that the technology allows us to reach a much wider audience internationally. So
Mhm,
I just think that that's amazing.
mhm.
Um, yeah, that's, I mean,
That's a,
we make
yeah.
webinars on the website so
Mhm,
students in in an asynchronous way, you know,
mhm,
take a look at what resources
mhm.
has to offer. So
Yeah.
I just think that's I think that, I mean, that wasn't in my day, you know,
Right.
but it is right now.
Wow. Okay. Thank you for pointing out that. Yeah, it's different these days. But what if the kind of technology was available when you were active as, you know, a professor and then faculty members? But yeah, thank you for sharing your perspective on that. And what futures do you envision or hope for PANAAWTM as an institution or organization and community?
Well, I mean, hope that the Asian Americans, Asian Americans in PANAAWTM, I hope they will become more politically involved in the U.S. All right. I mean, I'm from the U.S., so that's where my allegiance lies. For those who are international, for them to get involved in their own countries. But I'm speaking from
Mhm.
the U.S., especially with this very awful MAGA administration, which will be around for the next 4 years. I'm concerned about here in the U.S. Anti-Asian hate, white supremacy, and the warping of the Christian message by white nationalism. I mean, this is particularly Asian American issues. There might not be the issues in Korea or China or whatever, but um, it's my issue here. Hold on, it's just my phone keeps slipping down. So
Yeah. Yeah.
okay, so yeah, you
That's
know, I'm
very important, right? Yeah.
well, I'm also want PANAAWTM to be more involved in issues of Asian and Asian American poverty. Um, I mean, these are primarily Asian immigrants who work in menial jobs
Mhm.
because of their lack of English, socialization, and exploitation by their employers. So my envisioning for PANAAWTM is primarily from an U.S. Perspective.
Yeah, that's very helpful. Then you mentioned Asian American poverty, Asian poverty in America, in the US. Then, but Asian Americans are viewed as a model minority, and I would like to know your perspective on others' perception on Asian and Asian American as a model minority, um, especially as we pursue solidarity with other people of color. And then, for example, African Americans see Asian Americans as a model minority who are close to white folks. So how do you see our positionality between white and Black people? Do you have any thought on that?
Well, I mean, you know, it's a two-edged sword, two-edged coin. We're not simply model minority; we're also perpetual foreigner.
Mhm.
And it's the way I see it. You know, this does not affect the Asian immigrants that come in very poorly. It's primarily more a lot of the more successful Asians that came after 1965. I mean, those who came after 1965, were primarily, um, already educated, already very professional. All right, those who have been born in, like myself, as in the States, we're more uh, skeptical of Asian American minorities. I mean, the the model minority. We don't feel that. That's not my issue,
Mhm.
because I was never one of these, minorities. So,
Mhm.
I mean, I can only speak from my own experience. Now, the model minority has been used. I mean, a lot of Asians have bought into that model minority and have used it to try to get ahead. And it is used also um, to criticize blacks. So, I mean, um, it's a concept that is problematic, uh, and it's not me. I mean, I am not a model minority. I never was, but I do feel that I'm a perpetual foreigner.
Mhm. Yeah, thank you for your comments. The mother minority stereotype is imposed upon Asian Americans, but I also see that because of your experience, your upbringing in a lower class household, then I think it helps you see others in our own community. We are not same in terms of class, and you know, even though we are all Asian descent of Asian descent. So thank you for your comments. And I know you wrote about perpetual foreigner. You employed that lens in interpreting biblical texts. So thank you so much for your insights. And as I hear you, we are living in very challenging times as we have faced political, economic, and ecological crisis. What would you like to impart at this moment in history?
Oh, what do you mean?
I mean,
How?
uh, I understand. Who is the audience to hear this your advice or comments, insight? But what you this is a challenging time, but what would be um, a way that we all thrive together? We overcome these challenges. If you have any thoughts on political climate, and what would be the way for us to resolve some, not all, but some critical challenges as a member of Asian American community? How we Asian women, Asian American women can live in times like this. Does it make sense?
Actually, no, but I mean, it wasn't a question that you gave me. And, you know, right now, I just can't think about it off the top of my head.
Okay, yeah. For example, for your community, you're retired, you live in the community, then I know your community sometimes protest and share some opinions about these times, political matters. So if you give any advice to PANAAWTM members, then I think you actually answered this question that we could be involved more in political issues, discussing political issues.
Well, yes, I mean, like I say, right now we need to, get Congress working. I write
Mm-hmm.
my senators, I write
Mm-hmm.
congressmen, people. I went out protesting. We were out protesting for the ice, no ice in Pomona. So we get, you do your own, local act.
Mhm.
And I'm not going to say this is for all of PANAAWTM.
Mhm.
So, I mean, people in PANAAWTM have to look at their own situation and see where they fit in. And I'm not going to dictate, what they should be doing.
Mhm. Yeah, that's helpful because PANAAWTM has right now local gatherings funded by using some grant. So I think that would be a good place for us um, to act, responding to political crisis and other issues. So I would like to ask what you believe is the most important question that the next generation of leaders in PANAAWTM should keep asking themselves.
Well, I spent some time, looking at the stories, as I said before, of the students of the month. I was very impressed. Some were doctoral students, some were MAs. There's a wide variety of areas: social ethics, religious education, biblical studies, theology, and so forth. And I mean, some very interesting topics that these students are engaged in, all right, and a wide range of interdisciplinary studies. So, from what I see of these little bios, what I would encourage the next generation is to persevere in this theological journey that they've set for themselves. I mean, what I see is very exciting, but I am also seeing roadblocks like the closing down of seminaries, theology and religious studies departments. I mean, all of these might inhibit their job prospects, and that could get very discouraging um, for some of these students. All right, I mean, I don't know if I know in the U.S. it's terrible. The job prospects in the U.S. is terrible, and if these PANAAWTM students think they're going to get jobs here, especially those from other countries, it would be a problem. Okay, so these students have to constantly ask themselves why they're doing what they're doing. Okay, I just keep slipping down here. Um, why are they pursuing their degrees or ministry? Oh, what are their resources and structures of support? I mean, these questions need to be answered honestly. Can they stay in this country? I mean, I'm talking particularly those who are immigrant students, but those who are already here, U.S. citizens, the job prospects for U.S. citizens, for our PANAAWTM students is miserable, frankly. All right. So I would advise students and early faculty, well, first of all, to get involved in their professional societies. I mean, in the SBL, the women in the profession group or Quorum, do everything to get more professional development. Get involved in the programming of conferences by joining sessions where their interests lie. They should get network as much as possible, and then all of this is to understand, at least for the US people, what is going on here in the US, to have a realistic understanding of where their professional journey is going to take them here, either in the US or in their previous country. All right. Networking as much as possible. Also, registering for the several faculty development workshops that the Wabash Center and the Wabash Center for Teaching and Learning and the Forum for Theological Education. I mean, Wabash had several workshops for Asian and Asian American early and mid-career faculty. Pui Lan and Benny Liu has led several of these workshops, so they should look out for these and apply. All right, these did not exist when I was a doctoral student or an early career student. So I would like them to check this out. So, I mean, you know, um, the question that you give me, about the new generation of leaders in PANAAWTM, it depends on, where they are located, I can't make a generalization. I can only speak from the U.S. The U.S. is pretty bad. All right. I
Mhm.
don't know what's like in other countries, their theological um, situation. So that's a basic, you know, um, critical questions that this new generation of leaders in PANAAWTM should keep asking themselves.
Mhm. Yeah, that's very practical advice as theological education, religious studies, and job market all are very discouraging. So that
But still, I mean, I still think, they should get involved in the professional societies, APARI, SB,
Mhm.
SBL, AAR, go and do Wabash, to help them
Mhm.
develop professionally.
Yeah. So there are still some resources that are available for PANAAWTM members.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for your advice. I think this may be the last question if you don't have additional questions or topics that you'd like to address. So how would you like to be remembered by those you have impacted in PANAAWTM and also the field of biblical studies?
Well, I do hope I've been influential in effectively teaching my students.
Mhm.
I hope I've made a substantial contribution to the field of Hebrew Bible.
Mm.
I hope to continue to keep in touch with my scholarly friends and that I've made along in my long career. I mean, they've inspired me, they sustained me, they've encouraged me during difficult times and during great times. So basically, you know, was I influential to my students? Substantial contribution to my Hebrew Bible field. So that's basically all I'm asking to be remembered.
Yeah, I'm sure that there is more than that, but just you shared how you'd like to be remembered by your students, by your colleagues, and your friends. Yeah, that's why we have a time with you, listening to your stories of your life, career, scholarship, and involvement in these organizations, including PANAAWTM. So thank you so much.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, sharing your memories and stories.
Okay. And I'm going to complain right now to the department. So I'm sorry that it
But
really.
yeah, this record will show that we have lived in times like this, in 2025. I really appreciate your participation in this project amid these technical challenges. So this concludes our second interview on February 21st, 2025 with Dr. Gale E. So you will be remembered by so many of us. I wish you the very best.
Thank you, Jin Young.
Thank you.
We'll see you.